I'm struck by just how much blind faith that there actually is in the world around us. We live in a world, particularly those that are in the Western countries, but also much of the rest of the world, that is heavily influenced by capitalism. And the idea is that we have this market in place that matches all the buyers and suppliers together, and the bigger that market is, the better off it is. Right? The more players that we have in there, everybody is going to actually come to the conclusion that they can get a job, that they can do a number of different things. Now, capitalism, the sort of system that people talk about, is far more complicated than the sort of critiques and all of that kind of stuff comes down to. It is a very, very difficult system to explain. However, I want to point out that something that's really remarkable and interesting with the entire system is the amount of faith that's involved in it, where you simply just have to do something not knowing whether that thing actually is going to pan out. And let me explain this. So many of us get an education, not knowing whether that there's actually a job at the end of it when you actually get that education. Many of us will go and get certificates, not knowing whether actually getting these certificates actually matter. Many of us move to different cities, different countries, not knowing whether you're actually going to get a job or anything out of it. Many of us will show up at different meetings and all kinds of stuff, not knowing whether that there's actually an outcome as a result of it. Many of us are going to build something and develop something. Good morning. To develop something that you don't know whether that there's actually any outcomes that are the result of it. And many of us get paid once you actually do the work, not knowing whether you're actually going to get paid for doing the work. Everything that we do, much of the things that we actually do, we have an unbelievable amount of uncertainty in it, right? So if you were talking about faith in the sciences, people are really talking about how do you make decisions with uncertainty that's involved. But I actually view it slightly differently because, uncertainty is everywhere. There really is a lot of faith in the things that you do. And it's very akin to sort of religious faith that some people have, that you just do things just because. And I'm struck by how important it is to just keep going, right? To look at the world and say, I don't understand it. I can't figure it out. And I don't know if this is the right decision, but I'm just going to get up and do it anyways. And I think about how interesting this is, because many people start out in their careers, start out doing things not knowing what the heck that they're going to do. But then when they're 65 years old, they have nothing. So at the beginning, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know who they are. And then at 65, they end their particular career being successful at that particular career, whatever that is. That's a typical story for many of us. But here's the thing. Many of us don't end their career at 65. They keep going and do all sorts of really interesting things beyond that. And you really just have to have some faith that things are going to work out in the end of it. And many of us will cling to different things and sort of look for different ways to deal with that feeling that you get that, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. That's the entire parenting experience that we have, or your entire life experience. None of us have lived life before. This is our first time, unless you believe that we've lived life before. But most of us are kind of pursuing this for the first time. And if you're doing that, you have to have faith to keep going, to take those steps forward. It's built into what we actually do. So I want to just kind of point out that there is a lot that's involved there. It also means knowing that taking a step forward means that, some of us, it's not going to be the right choice. And some of us are going to experience failure. But then you have to have that faith to get up and get going. Right? I think about this idea, and I know it's a really dark and awful idea, but it's Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor. And his idea, or what he was sort of pointing out, was like, how the heck do you come out of that and still do okay mentally, right? Like some people actually came out of that and were mentally okay. And I think it's that the idea of just having some unbelievable amount of faith in yourself, in the world, and just being at peace with the world around us and being at peace with yourself. I think those things are deeply important to how we deal with the world. And doing, as my mom says, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's a running joke in our family. So, just getting up and doing it and realizing that what's the choice that I have? What do I gotta do? And you get up and you can do it anyways. You just keep doing those steps forward. You keep moving forward because you think that is the right thing to do, because you don't have an alternative. As we sort of believe that there's an alternative, those alternatives are very slight often, and they're not as drastic as what most people believe that they are. But if you're in a dark situation at this moment, I want you to sort of think about that everything that we actually do is just based on faith. We take those steps forward no matter what, and we get up and get going, and we just keep taking those steps forward. If you're not in a great, or if you're in a good position at this moment, realize just how fortunate you were that faith that you actually had worked out, right? Like you took the steps forward into something that could have been really awful. My career is based on studying the number of times and the amount that things just don't work out for you. And there's a lot of times it doesn't work out for you, even though that you think that things are the right way and you're doing the right things. But I think the critical moment is that you look at the world, you take those steps, and some of us will have bad things happen to us, but it's our ability to step up, to get going, and looking at, okay, that bad thing happened. It felt bad, it was awful, but then, there's two sort of outcomes. You get back up and you try again, you keep going. But then the other thing is you look at it and you say, hey, wait a minute, that wasn't so bad. I was framing that to think that it was actually a really bad thing. How do I turn these lemons into lemonade, as the saying goes? How do I actually turn that into something that's really positive and turn that into my story that other people will actually understand, that will resonate, and maybe turn it into something really positive? So I just want you to think about that. Most of what we do is based on faith. That's it, taking those steps forward, not knowing what the heck you're actually doing, but you just do it. And you take those steps, and that's it. I think it's a really wonderful ability to keep taking those steps forward and realizing you're never going to know anything and know the right answers. You just got to keep taking those steps no matter what. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.